Welcome to T-SMAC, home of the T-SMAC. May I take your order?
Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of Talking Smack, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and much, much more. I am your host, Josh Scar, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Alex. Alex, how are you feeling today? Keeping warm?
Oh, yeah, I'm keeping warm, man. There's no time to die today. We have a draft coming, and I'm not talking about the draft of the cold winds blowing out of Canada.
Those darn Canadians keeping us so cold. But speaking of Canadians, we have someone who might be an honorary Canadian with how close to the border he is to join in and round out this draft we have doing today. We have going. We have going would probably be the proper way to say it. We have Justin from the Movie Wire and back to the balcony. Justin, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, buddy. Excited to be here. This is probably the most exciting topic that I've been waiting for all week to discuss is what's to come this blockbuster year full of, well, I don't want to say good movies because we don't know yet, but I think this one's going to be the year of pure discussion and anticipation of a fun movie year. So I'm excited on this topic.
I do think this year especially is going to be a very good litmus test for the everything must be a franchise conversation, because as we will get into through this draft that we're doing, which we'll explain after the break, we are in a weird age of Hollywood, as we've discussed plenty of times already this last year, mostly with Justin. Everything in this list is either an adaptation or some kind of sequel in some sense. There is one thing on the list here that I created for this that is not a sequel, and that's Mickey 17, and that comes out in a couple days by the time this episode releases, and I'm excited for that movie. I don't care what anyone says. I should say I don't care what David Zaslav has to say, because he's been trying to bury this movie, changing the release date like 6 times just to try and get people to not go see this thing. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what's going to happen this year, because so many sequels, tie-ins, adaptations, everything is an IP now, and we do have one thing to discuss, which at the time this episode releases, it is going to be a little dated, but it's the first time we've discussed this since the news came out. So we got to get this off Alex's chest at the very least. James Bond is now like officially 100% owned by Amazon MGM. The Broccoli family is stepping away for a reported $1 billion after they had made a big stink about how James Bond is not an IP. So how are you guys handling this loss in the family?
This is the death of Bond, truly, because this is open-ended, full-blown studio meddling. This is just a nightmare when it comes to this franchise. And it pains me a little bit on this, because we know what the future holds, and it's almost like studios are holding the intent of, we're going to push everything to streaming. We know it's not going to be as good as everything else, so just push this crap to streaming. And that's where I fear for this, especially when it comes to the casting of any new Bond, is it doesn't matter anymore, because put it at home, people are still going to watch it, and they're going to have just milk this. And we've seen that from a lot of even Marvel stuff now, to Star Wars, to anything that just they're not confident that will succeed in theater as a huge spectacle will go to streaming. And Bond is an experience. Bond is a tradition in some households. And this is where I worry is going to ruin the experience of going to the theater to see the new Bond film, to introduce our youth to the new Bond film, so want to watch something new. If they watch something crappy, they're not going to have interest in watching the old Bond films. And that's where my fear is with this.
It has been held by the Broccoli family since Dr. No. I mean, there's always been some rights issues. Like there was a Casino Royale film that first aired like in the 50s on like, I believe, the BBC. And then there was like the comedy remake. Then there was an issue where certain portions of certain books were owned. So there was a while that they really couldn't use Spectre. And that's how we also got Never Say Never Again, and an official movie with Sean Connery in like 81. The Broccoli family has owned this. It's been Barbara. It was Cubby Broccoli originally, and it was his son Michael G. Wilson, and then it was Barbara Broccoli, his daughter. And I get it. Michael is 83. He says he just kind of wants to retire and let things ride out. He's been a producer and working on these films since the 70s. He co-wrote For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, A View to a Kill, The Living Daylights, License to Kill. Barbara has been associated with it just as long as he have. They're literally as older than the franchise because she's 64, and they grew up with it. They nursed it. And what is true has come out, that originally they were doing a big stink about it because Amazon bought it, not realizing creative control was held by them, only distribution rights. But there's been lawsuits. Like if you look back at some of the oral histories of it, there's so many lawsuits involved, like who owns what rights. Some rights expired. MGM had it. United Artists had it. Sony had rights to it. Bond is a franchise of 25 movies, some really legendary video games, great books. And whenever a new Bond is announced, when Daniel Craig was announced, they had literally the British Secret Service there to announce it. He came out of the MI facility on a boat down the river, showing up, stepping off of it in a tux to announce he was the new Bond, you know?
But if you remember, there was immediate backlash to that because I can't remember if it was American or British fans, but he also had to wear a life jacket for insurance purposes.
Yes.
And so people came back and was like, he's a coward.
Well, there's two backlashes. One, that, but also the second one is that traditionally in the Bond films, Bond has dark hair, and the villain, being Russian or German or some kind of like Eastern European, has blonde hair. So people were backlashing against the blonde Bond. It doesn't work. And I have said this before, but one of my favorite theater experiences, because my wife, huge Bond fan, as am I, she wasn't sold on him originally. And we're watching the film with our best friend there. And it's like, okay, well, this is very different. He's kind of brutish. What's going on with this? I heard the moment they both were invested in him as Bond, because when he first came out in the tux, like, you know, deeper into the movie, I both heard them go, oh. And I was like, all right. He won over the women. And as Justin said, the Bond films are escapists. They were in the 60s and early 70s. They were kind of very languid in their storytelling because you were still traveling the world. You were going to the movies to see locations, to see these beautiful places and these hotels and see these cars. And it lost its way a little bit in the 90s where he was like driving like BMWs and stuff. But then they started refinding their footing again when they went too far out. And so I think the franchise right now is in a place where it's hurt because I think Daniel Craig stayed a little too long. We haven't had a Bond as long as he has, which he was Bond for almost 15 years, 16 years. And he did 5 films versus Connery's 6 in 8 years. And Roger Moore, I believe, also did 6 in 12 or 13 years. Yeah, Dalton did 2 and 4. And there was a bit of a break because of some lawsuits, a 6-year gap. Then you had Brosnan bust out 4 in, I think, 6 years, something like that. It was really, really quick. They just kept coming out with those. But then there's been these lulls. You had a writer's strike at one point that affected Quantum of Solace. Then you had some other conflicts. You had issues with MGM is kind of struggling, so they brought on Sony and all these issues. It has now been 4 years since the last Bond, and in that movie, they killed James Bond. We don't have a writer. We don't have a director. We don't have anything. It's going to be 2 to 3 more years. We're talking about 7, maybe 8-year period between Bond films. And what does Amazon want to do with it? According to some of the insider stuff, the reason why Barbara Broccoli has been sitting on it is that in her first meeting with the Amazon executives of their movie department, one of them just straight up said to her face, listen, I've never seen Bond as really a hero of this franchise. Do we need him? And she immediately walked out and said, I'm not dealing with fucking morons. And so she sat on it. So we'll see. We'll see, is anyone at Amazon intelligent enough to have creative control of this franchise? One of the rumors was one of the things they tried to pitch her on was, well, can we at least mention the MI6 and the Q and put them in Citadel, that TV show that they released last year? And she went, no, we're not doing that. We're not diluting Bond by having him pimp your other shows. So we'll see. The deal's not done yet, but as you said, they're being paid $1 billion to relinquish creative control. They're setting up another company that will be half owned by them, half owned by Amazon. So they still get franchise rights and other stuff and money from that. But Amazon has deep pockets. And I am not particularly excited that right after the news came out, Jeff Bezos did a fan poll saying, hey, tell us who do you want to cast as Bond. That's a notoriously a horrible idea.
So I'm going to jump in here because here's kind of, I'm going to state this for the record. If it's fucking Glenn Powell, I'm going to be fucking pissed if he was even part of that poll. But here's the danger on reinvesting or buying a license is they're going to go cheap with the first movie. This is a gamble for any studio. Just because you're using the Bond name, Disney had some success with Star Wars, Marvel, whatever. But this is Amazon buying a very specific branding, and they aren't going to go all in on this. Amazon will cut corners on this, and I will be bold on the assumption they're going to go. The only thing I will give them credit, if they do it right, they will go bold with somebody unrecognizable and somebody with great skill to prove the audience is wrong. We saw that with Michael Keaton as Batman that didn't think he can portray it. They need a Bond that will actually take audiences by surprise versus just a stereotypical Bond that we just assume in a poll, who do you want as Bond? Okay, that's going to be the obvious. I'm not about the polls. I'm about being taken by surprise in something new and feeling new. And Amazon needs to have the balls to actually go forward with that and putting some money where their mouth is when it comes to the storytelling. Put a new individual of something that people haven't seen before but will become a fan of, and put the money in the writing. Somebody that respects the material but bring something fresh to the table. That's going to be Amazon's strategy, but will they execute it? No, because they're going to be cutting corners around it, and they're going to be trying to just milk the branding of it and hoping people tune in or buy a ticket, whatever their plans are going to be. That's where I don't have the faith in this kind of deal that it's going to go forward in any sort of success. First movie, yes, because the Bond name's attached. Anything after that, it's going to lose steam.
You know, Justin, that is an amazing point that we're getting a little into the weeds here because it's not the point of this episode, but I think it's a good conversation because in your Captain America Brave New World review, you talked about how Marvel, and Alex agreed, and I don't disagree, ever since the end of Endgame, Marvel has focused more on stunt casting with known celebrities than they have on writing and focusing on the writing and the storytelling. And that is exactly what you're saying here with what Amazon's likely to do with Bond. And there's also these stories that have come out, like Maya Hawke recently talked about how, I can't remember the context. She was either talking to an agent or she was talking to a casting director or some kind. And the casting director, maybe she lost out on a role or she was talking, I forget. But she was talking about how casting directors and studios now will not even consider you, or at least in projects she's in, if you do not even have a certain amount of like social media presence. Like if you have less than 1 million followers on social media, you're probably not getting cast in whatever movie they're looking at making because you can't push the movie through your social media account. And that's just dumb because not everyone is as invested on social media. Not everyone is on Instagram. Not everyone is on Facebook. Not everyone's on TikTok. And so getting down into that nitty gritty of like how online is this person instead of how well can this person portray the role that we're trying to create is a bad omen for things to come if that is how things are being done. And I'm not as invested in James Bond as you guys are. I have good memories of Goldeneye. I got into Bond around the Goldeneye era. That's when my dad was like, oh, these movies happen. And I remember seeing the one with the diamond face and Denise Richards in her wet t-shirt. I don't have Casino Royale came out in a time that I don't look fondly on in my life at a time, but I remember that is like one thing that is not tarnished from that era of my life. Like, that movie was just so damn good. The parkour scene, Daniel Craig just busting through a wall, all the stuff with Vesper, like Casino Royale is just like a fantastic movie, let alone a really good James Bond movie.
No, it is. And I find it interesting that this week rumors have come out about two staple franchises from the UK. You know, Bond's about 62-ish years old. I believe Doctor Who just hit 60 itself. And rumor is the new Doctor Who, Ncuti Gatwa, may be quitting after 2 seasons because it's taking so long to film these shows. Like, it takes like 8 months to film like 10 episodes. And there was a very long break between filming that season to this one. And because now it's Disney Plus backed, Disney's waiting to see how this season does before they renew it, which means we wouldn't, after the 2025 season, we wouldn't get a new one until 2027, possibly 2028. And they want to renew it like a season at a time versus BBC, which basically just kept it going. Well, the last time that Doctor Who went into having issues with plummeting ratings, they brought back David Tennant, the Ninth Doctor, who was the Doctor who brought the revival back in 2005, huge ratings. And the ratings after he left slowly diminished. A lot of that was writing. I'm going to say most of that was writing issues, that it got more outlandish and more bizarre. Then they brought him back. Ratings went up because David Tennant's returning. He returned for the 50th anniversary, of course, because the doctors do that. So he came back and he basically ushered in this new Doctor. Rumor is that if Ncuti does leave, they're going to bring David Tennant back again to introduce a new Doctor, or do like 1 or 2 seasons himself before passing it off again. I can see Amazon, like, they do the first movie, they kind of hedge their bets. Maybe it's $150 million movie. They don't do like Disney did with episode 7 and give a $600 million budget. They roll something safe out. It doesn't do well. And then they try to lure back Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig. Timothy Dalton's still alive, and they try to get like the 3 of them to do some kind of like legacy Bond film, because they go, oh well, it's always been rumored to be a code name, so we'll have them in a film with the new Glenn Powell Bond, and it'll be the 4 Bonds film.
That sounds like an AI nightmare.
Multiverse.
Way to put it into the ether.
It's going to be a Bond multiverse. Just wait. So, but kind of just to land it here is, if they do it right, if they do it smart, they will respect it, but still try something new without going into the character spectacle, and give us a story spectacle of what we would expect from it. That is all we need for a Bond movie to be successful. And if Amazon really wanted to satisfy me, I still haven't gotten my James Bond Jr. movie, so they can go that route too. I'll just say that.
I just need a Bond film that has beautiful settings, a strong Bond, and a strong Bond as in the male lead, being Bond. I'm not getting into a culture war. Barbara Broccoli said James Bond is a guy. She doesn't care what nationality he has to be British. She doesn't care what ethnicity is, what sexuality is, as long as he's a British guy. I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She helped write No Time to Die. She said it perfectly. She said James Bond is a man. He may be a misogynistic man, but the movie isn't. Which is true. You can have that. You can have Bond be a machismo asshole, and yet the movie not be that. And every time we've had every Bond has been a little bit different. Every Bond has been very much the times. So just give us on location. I don't want them shooting the volume. They need to be on locations, beautiful locales, an over the top story, and just have them driving nice cars. He doesn't need to sleep with the woman at the beginning, then the woman in the middle, who then is immediately killed, and then pick up somebody at the end. He doesn't need to do that. No Time to Die didn't do that. The Dalton ones didn't do that. You can have a Bond who has romance that continues on throughout the movies. Hell, one of the best Bond movies is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It was the second Bond, who I forget his name, but he immediately quit. They brought Connery back. That movie was amazing. It told a romantic story, and it was from the book On Her Majesty's Secret Service. you can adapt Bond without losing who Bond is. And I hope whoever the hell's running Amazon is smart enough to know that.
Well, I want to take on to that because this is where I agree with you, is that it doesn't have to be gender specific when it comes to the character. You just need to have a strong writing characteristic. But this is where it really does piss me off, is the fact that when it comes to putting out these polls, when it comes to public opinion, it's like the female Ghostbuster. Somebody's going to have a problem with it, and it's going to ruin what the movie is trying to do. So I'm fine with any sort of Bond as long as we keep the traditions of who Bond is, the internal struggles, the personalities. You can have that with any gender. It doesn't matter. But that's the problem with movies right now, is that studios rely so heavy on public opinion because somebody's always going to have a problem with it. But if you can prove them wrong with good writers and a good investment in writers and tell the story of the character and give us the fan feel, that's something that's going to be very special for Amazon if they execute it properly. I can have a female Bond, and I can tell you, if it's done right, I would probably love it. But it all depends on the writing. The minute it put a poll out there on who would be the Bond and kind of stirred the target audience into a male dominant role, that's where they're losing me a little bit, because they're not willing to be fresh. They're not willing to hear new ideas. And that's a problem with any movie, especially in this year that we're going to be talking about, that we're not getting those new ideas because it's all about social opinion, social media, as Josh brilliantly said earlier. So that's the danger in movies this year and going into the next few years. And I think Amazon isn't helping by stirring the pot with these polls, I would say.
But when Sydney Sweeney's the next Bond girl, Justin will be in the front.
Hell yes. Put out that poll, just put Sydney Sweeney on it. You got my vote.
Justin?
Yes?
Would you like a remake of Octopussy with Sydney Sweeney as Octopussy with her harem of female assassins?
All right, hang on one sec, guys. I'll be right back.
And with that, let's hear from Karen and Ann over at Sugar Coated Murders. We'll be right back to do our Blockbuster fantasy draft.
Hey, Ann Barner.
Hey, Karen Beatty.
We need a promo. Like where we talk about what we do on our podcast.
On our Sugar Coated Murder podcast? Like how we love to bake and talk about murder?
That's what we need to talk about.
There you go.
I think we've talked about it. Y'all find us on all your favorite listening apps.
Stay sweet.
And don't murder.
Because if you kill people,
we will talk about you.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Sugar Coated Murder YouTube channel, as well as Justin's cult-worthy collaboration, Back to the Balcony. I did mention that earlier up top, but always got to mention that because that's always a good time. And I cannot wait for one of the upcoming episodes. I teased it in our Captain America episode. Gonna tease it again here because I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but you'll know it when you see it.
It's going to be a good one. And I can't wait because I think this one will be me and Antonio's biggest debate. So you look out for it. You'll know it when you see it.
So we've talked about it a couple times leading into this. We are going to be doing a Blockbuster fantasy draft. So if you're familiar with the concept of like sports fantasy drafts, basically you just lump all the players into a pool and you draft them and you try to pick the most productive team out of that season. We're going to do that with movies, and we're going to do it with their box office hauls. But I did think of a question towards the end of our last discussion here. Are we only going to consider 2024 or 2025? Sorry, I forget we're living in the future now. Are we only going to consider 2025 as a whole? Because I do think that affects pick number one pretty heavily, because
yes, it does. Because my number one
Avatar, if Avatar is the number one pick, which it should be, dude, does that mean we have to wait until like March of next year when it's finally out of the box office after it's made $6 billion?
I would.
Or do we take it in as the 2024 year as a whole? Because I do think in terms of fairness, we do have to allow everything their full theatrical run, which means Avatar should be allowed its full theatrical run before we declare a winner.
Based off of how the last Avatar movie went, I will accept the first week of February grosses as its final gross. That will give me a 6-week run, and that should be a nice number.
It should still be probably $1 billion at minimum.
Oh, it will be at least $1 billion. Yeah.
So this is also going to be a snaking draft, which what that means is you have 1, 2, 3, and then in the next round you have 3, 2, 1. So whoever is 1 drafts last in the next round. Whoever has the last pick drafts first in the next round. I did a random draw earlier in the week, so coincidentally the Talking Smack guys go first. So it goes Alex, Josh, Justin, and then Justin, Josh, Alex. So instead of doing like a cumulative box office haul, we've also distributed point values, because if someone just completely tanks their draft class, you have no chance. So we're trying to do something to kind of balance things out. So there's point values assigned. So like for 250 million gives you 50 points. And then if you get to 500 million, you get 75 points. And then 600 million gets you 90, 750 million gets you 150. If you get to 1 billion with your movie, you get 250 points. If you get to 2 billion, you get 500 points. And to add a little extra to this whole thing, we're going to guess what the overall box office haul will be. And if we're within a certain amount, you get bonus points, which I'm not going to go into because no one's listening to this part anyway. I'm just saying numbers and things. So all it is for us. We're not debating quality. We're debating or we're drafting box office projections. So Alex, with the first overall pick in the Talking Smack Fantasy Blockbuster draft, who are you taking?
I've had my golden eye on Avatar Fire and Ash. The original movie was the first movie to crack 2 billion, earned 2.5 billion back all the way back in 2008. Now, the sequel, 13 years too late, damn thing, it earned 2.3 billion. So a little bit of a drop. I'm okay with that. If people were like, well, who's going to watch this? Nobody wants to see this, blah, 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 blah.
Foreign audiences and domestic audiences want this, apparently.
Right. I even heard some YouTubers and podcasters going like, I think Fox is lying about these numbers because I haven't met a single person who's seen this. I'm like, I saw it 3 times. And
you need to expand your circle, or you can just stand outside your theater and be like, hey, what are you going to see? And probably like 4 out of 5 people are going to be like Avatar. Yeah.
I'm going to predict, I think it's going to be 3 years between films. I'm going to go with 1.8 billion. I think that's going to be its haul. I believe that the Avatar franchise is just one of those just lurking in the shadows kind of thing. And I don't think you're going to hit the highs of the first one, because I mean, that part of it is that was unique. It ushered in the 3D era. It ran for like 6 months, just like Titanic did. This one earned its Christmas money, sailed into February, and just went away. Now, it did last longer than a lot of franchises do now, which basically earn all their money in 3 weeks and then just kind of linger around. It's not like a Top Gun Maverick, which just lasted for like 7 months somehow. But I think we're going to go 1.8.
I think that's a safe bet, because I don't know that it's going to have the same audience, because there's not that anticipation of like, oh, it's been so many years since the last one. I just hope I don't get COVID or sick again when it comes time for us to review that one.
What you picking, right, Josh? What's your number one?
Pick number 2 in the Talking Smack Fantasy Blockbuster draft, Josh is going to take Jurassic World Rebirth.
God damn it, I was hoping somebody would sleep on that one.
This one is big with the foreign audiences, especially.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's going to have a great haul in domestically. I think Gareth Edwards could bring something interesting that could give it some legs domestically as well as internationally. So I think, I don't know that it's going to break $1 billion, but I'm going to say it's going to come in at 750 million.
I can see that. It's been diminishing returns, but then again, each of the trilogies has that kind of diminishing returns. The first Jurassic Park was huge, and then 2 Lost World was, and then the third one, that's why they waited like 15 years, something crazy like that, between to bring it back. And then Jurassic World made like a crap ton of money.
Jurassic World even broke the Avengers opening weekend numbers.
Yep.
Somehow. Like it was just insane.
And then the second one earned a bit less. The third one earned a bit less, but still earned $1 billion. So I can see this one having a nice little pop. I don't know anyone who cares about this one.
I'm interested to see it. I just didn't want one of you guys to get it. So I was like, it has to be my number 2.
That one I think is going to be, I think it's too soon. I think they put it 2 back to back. If they would have separated it by 5 years, I think we could be talking a little bit, 5 to 7 years, whatever it may be.
I think that's fair.
But dinosaurs are cool. It's a new cast. It's not continuing a story. I think it does have a shot, and people international across the world love dinosaurs. So I think it does have a shot.
And it's got the intrigue of like, it's a new island. It's the research and development island. You've got the hybrid human dino monster that they're not going to say is the human hybrid until everyone sees it. I just think that, like you said, international audiences love the dinosaurs, and they're introducing a whole slew of new dinosaurs. Plus, they've got the classics with the raptors and the T-Rexes. So it's hard to bet against dinos. So, Justin, what are you taking with pick number 3?
I'm kind of the same way. I didn't want any of you to take it, but this one has real potential to bust through the 1 billion. And I could have sworn you were going to take this, Josh, but I'm going to go with Wicked for passing the 1 billion, because here's kind of the deal. Box office went about 727 worldwide, and that's not including everybody that watched it from home, wanting to feel the climax, seeing how this story ends. You have a lot of origin stories coming out of the second half that's going to attract a lot of people to see, a lot of people from the original Wizard of Oz to see what happens to these characters. So this one, I don't think we're going to see a decrease in the box office, because given the runtime of the first one, it didn't deter people like we see a lot of these long run times. This is really going to, I think, encourage people to have that experience that people that waited to see it at home didn't experience, that they're seeing on social media, that they're seeing all these videos on social media. Encourage them to experience it themselves. So this one is going to outdo the first one, hands down.
My oldest daughter, for her birthday, we took her and a good group of her friends and their parents to go see this in theaters. And her best friend's mom was like, "Oh, I didn't know anything about this," and she was just so excited to either try and go see the musical before the next one, or to see this one, because she's like, "I don't know if I want to be spoiled." Like, she's so excited about it, and like even me who has seen the musical and I know what's happening. I'm like, yes, let's be excited together. Like, I'm genuinely jazzed about this too. But you said you think it's going to cross $1 billion?
Easily. This will cross $1 billion.
Yeah.
Given that the other one did $700 million, and it's a musical. Musicals usually divide.
Yeah, it did a Greatest Showman, because this is still in our local theater. I went to go see Captain America this last weekend to kind of date when we went to go see this or record this. But when I went to go see Captain America, I saw the Wicked poster was still out in the now showing section. And I was like, holy crap, that's been out for like 5 months at this point.
I would be the happiest man alive, especially after the Antonio episode, to see a musical pass the $1 billion mark. And this is the one to do it, because this isn't just a movie. It's an experience for the whole family, and people are going to bring family members to see this versus the first one. So this one's going to have a reaction that's going to have an Empire Strikes Back reaction to a sequel, that it's really going to outdo the first one.
All right, Justin, you have pick number 4, the first pick of the second round. What are you taking?
So this one, and I want to remind listeners that this has nothing to do with quality. This has nothing to do with taste, but I am going to say Lilo and Stitch for my first pick. And I feel dirty saying that, but I'm going to say it, because Lilo and Stitch, if we take The Lion King, that was just in a direct replica, just looks uglier in 2019. That one I think did 1.6 billion worldwide. And then we take kind of Mufasa, that kind of didn't do as well. But if we put it in the middle, I think this one is set worldwide to kind of give something new, because Lilo and Stitch has kind of had a new phenomenon in marketing lately in the last couple of years versus The Lion King. So there's a lot of work that went into promoting Lilo and Stitch before the movie. So I think this one will probably do, I would comfortably say I would sit around the $800 million mark.
That's an interesting one. That one I was maybe sleeping on for maybe my last pick if it was still around, because Stitch is a big marketing opportunity. Like, there's going to be a crap ton of merchandise, and the merchandise is going to sell. but I don't know that people have the taste for the live action adaptations anymore. But to your point, this might be one of those weird ones that just slips through the cracks and everyone just goes and sees, and like kids love it, even though like there's an animated movie that's probably more condensed and like digestible. But there's something about seeing the live action stuff that it's different. So I don't disagree. And if they ramp up the marketing and they continue to do the thing that they did with the original marketing, where it's Stitch invading other movies, it could end up marketing itself really well and being fun. And they don't really have to work, because it's like, well, what did we do last time? Okay, let's do that again. But with the second pick of the second round, I'm sandwiched in the middle of all these. You put me in a weird place, man, because I know what I want to pick. But if you're reaching for Lilo and Stitch in the second round, I kind of have a different thing that I want to reach for here, just to make sure I get it, because I think that it's a safe bet. I don't know that it'll be a good bet, but I think it's a safe bet. But I'm going to go with Superman. I can't deny Superman. I think that is going to be a movie. Shocking, I know.
No, I'm actually genuinely shocked, because Man of Steel did okay.
I think the promise of a superhero universe with Superman, and as we get closer with more crypto marketing, and not the bad crypto, but like the dog crypto, marketing crypto in the movie, the dog crypto. God damn, James Gunn, what are you doing to me here? No one's going to be able to talk about this properly anymore. I think this is a movie that gets close to the billion. I think it'll do better than Batman v Superman at the very least. I think this is probably going to be another, I'll say 850 for box office, 850 million for the global audience.
850?
I think 850. If crypto is as big of a hit as they seem to be banking on, and again, they've got all of these other superheroes that are going to be appearing, I think there's a lot that people can take from it. So and if it's the Superman that they're promising, it's the Superman that we've never seen before. It's the Superman that is going to save cats from trees. It's the Superman that is also going to just hug a kid and like save someone from a cliff. I think it's a movie that could be the right movie for this year in this climate.
Okay. All right.
I agree with Josh, because I had it banked, if I were to pick it, about 700, because this one is marketing a fresh outlook, a cleaner tone, a more colorful tone. It's integrating a lot of the fun factor, and I think it builds a curiosity of what these filmmakers are really going to bring to the table. So I think this is going to give us a new outlook on it. So I 100% agree with Josh.
I'm looking at, so the DC universe, the Man of Steel did 670. Batman vs Superman did 750. Suicide Squad did 750. Oh, okay, yeah, maybe. Wonder Woman did 820. Justice League did 660.
Aquaman did $1 billion.
1.1. But then after that, we were just 300, 200, 100, 100, 400, 100, 200. I see this. I just don't see it cracking 5. So, I mean, I'm hoping you're right. I hope it's a good Superman movie.
Well, keep in mind that Marvel is shitting all over all their fans right now. So they're having a lot of generic stuff come out that's not really making people excited for what's to come. If DC and Superman can actually capitalize on the missing elements of being excited for something that's to come, then word of mouth will really push this movie into a different direction. So I think based on what Marvel's kind of come out and kind of the limp numbers that we're getting, I think they're in a good opportunity to really not reinvent, but really just refresh the mind of simplistic superhero storytelling. So I think that's what's really pushing my prediction, and I agree with Josh on it, is the fact that it's doing something a little bit different from what it looks like than Marvel.
I do think the biggest risk I'm giving myself with my picks is that Jurassic World and Superman come out within a week of each other.
Ooh, that could be bad.
July is stacked because you have Jurassic World, you have Superman, and then you have Fantastic Four to round out the month. But I don't know that there's a whole lot in August. So if all 3 of them are good, or if 2 out of 3 of them are good, they're going to have legs to carry over into the new school year and through like Labor Day weekend. So like, I think that's what I'm hoping for, as well as, you know, just at least Superman being good. I think Jurassic World, I think, what was it? I don't think Dominion did as well, but like even Fallen Kingdom, like I think Fallen Kingdom still did fairly well at the global box office. So like, even if the Jurassic movie is not good, it still takes in money because people are like dinos. All right, Alex, closing out round 2. What are we taking?
I have a View to a Kill with Thunderbolts. I just think that there's enough Bucky fans, and the trailers have been playing up that this is fun, this is joyful, this is not dour. I think Thunderbolts is gonna surprise and earn a decent paycheck at the box office. Now, I know that Captain America is currently trending to earn very little. In terms of Marvel movies, it's probably going to end up somewhere around 400, which is terrible for a movie that was filmed 3 times and is like 2 years late. The people I've talked to and in my life that I go to the movies with, they were kind of looking past Captain America and they are looking for Thunderbolts because they love Bucky and they love Florence Pugh and they're excited to see them. And the Red Guardian, is back. I'm hoping that this, if it's not an integral film, that it's just a fun film. So I'm going to pick Thunderbolts with about, Suicide Squad did 750. I'm going to say it's the same.
750?
Yep.
I
know.
That's a bold prediction for what Marvel's been doing.
I know. Ant-Man the Wasp was 500. Guardians of the Galaxy was 850. Marvel's was 200. Deadpool was 1.3 billion. So I'm kind of hedging my bets that it's going to be a middle of the road Marvel movie and earn about 750.
Well, I'll say this. There's not enough recognizable for the common audience to really push that number. But I would love to see that movie because I said it in my Captain America review. I think that one looks the most fun out of coming out this year when it comes to superhero movies. But that's because of the marketing of the trailer. And the soundtrack is making me really feel good about what I'm watching. But I hope you're right. But I think that is going to be a stretch. But again, I can't wait to see it.
I think 750 is a bold prediction. I would probably hedge my bets and say 500. I think that it might have some legs, although May is pretty stacked as well. I'm feeling a little hesitant towards it just because the color palette is so Marvel stereotype right now, which maybe that's playing up to the villain of the film with Void, but people want color. They want things to see in the movie, not just a sepia tone palette.
Yeah, the color palette is the Russo brothers gray. But with first pick of the 3rd round, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning.
Damn you.
Wow.
The Mission Impossible movies are very odd in that for a long time, they have just kind of come out and earned a steady number, somewhere between 450 to 600 million. But then with Ghost Protocol, they began to inch up every film until Fallout, which was about 800. Even though Dead Reckoning Part 1, good film, we enjoyed it. Haley Atwell forever. Even though it got buried by Barbenheimer because it came out 10 days before, it still eked out about 600 million. I don't think that the release date is going to be as troublesome. It's being marketed as the final one. They're already starting the hype train with they hung Tom Cruise off of a biplane and let him dangle out there until he passed out, and they put him in some kind of like decompression the abyss suit and threw him into a submarine in the middle of nowhere. I think people are going to turn up for the stunts. I think they're going to turn up for the final wrap up film. I don't believe we're going to have an issue here where it's going to be like the Fast franchise whimpering to a close and no one cares. I'm going to say this one, I'm going to say 7. It's going to go out with 7. And then that's how I feel about that.
That's all I have to say about that.
I just hope the Skyfall doesn't crush me with this one.
All right. So with pick number 2 in the 3rd round, you guys have put me in like the worst fucking situation I feel like I could be in this, because I could just take the July movies. Like I could just take all of them. But there's a movie out there that none of us want to see and none of us want to acknowledge that it exists. And that movie's probably the safest bet of any of these. It'll make 500, 600 million easily.
Freakier Friday. I knew it.
But I'm not in a position where I have to take it because of how you guys have gone about this. So shit, man, I guess I'm just taking my Aaron Rodgers pick here. We're taking my QB when I don't need one. I'm going to take Fantastic Four First Steps.
See, I can see that one doing worse than Thunderbolts, but I could also see that one just taking Thunderbolts out back and just drowning it and be like, your box office is mine.
And that's kind of where I was surprised where you said 750 million, especially since Thunderbolts comes out just a few weeks before Final Reckoning, among other things. First Steps is the last big blockbuster of July this year. And if they market it properly and they just kind of continue to tease out things and be like, oh, by the way, there's a Silver Surfer. Oh, by the way, Herbie talks. Oh, by the way, here is Galactus again. I think there's enough there, especially with people like us who are invested in movies and invested in comic book movies in particular. They're going to flock to this movie just because it's a Marvel movie with some panache, with a vision, with color. And there's a lot of stuff that they're doing that seems like they're taking their time with it and they're putting an actual effort into it. Like I talked about in the reaction video or reaction trailer episode where like they're doing little things like you can hear the rumble of the rocks when the thing moves. You can see the dirt on the lens when Johnny Storm is flying in front of the camera lens. Like they're doing these little extra things to immerse the movie and the experience of it. And yes, Pedro Pascal is a stunt cast, but like everyone else in that movie is classic MCU casting where it's like, oh, damn, I didn't even think about that person. Like, yeah, they'd probably be great. And so I think this is kind of going to be a refresh of people loving Marvel. Like, I think this could be similar to Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think it's going to crack 1 billion. It could, but I'm going to say this reeks in 900 million.
I agree with that because mine I put between 700 to 800, and here's why. We're forgetting that people are going to assume, based on the marketing that Marvel has done right now, a Robert Downey Jr. appearance, and that could be huge for the movie, and this could be huge for what's to come for Marvel. I think the Thunderbolts won't give us much when it comes to what's to come, and I think that's what people really look forward to with Marvel movies is how they're setting the future movies. Fantastic Four, this has been in the works for a while, and they're wondering how they're going to integrate it into this. So this is going to be the big move for Marvel movies. And I think this is going to be one of those that's going to have a decent weekend. It's going to have word of mouth that's going to blow up this film, depending if they planned it correctly. And we do have a Robert Downey because people underestimate how much he does affect the box office. So if there is even hints of him in this movie, then this will be a huge movie. But this is going to be the one to push Marvel forward, again, if they deliver what they've hopefully are promising to audiences.
And I think if Marvel is smart, they don't even mention Doctor Doom in the marketing. Like they let word of mouth spread like the Avengers the Avengers initiative in Iron Man, where people go back and like, what? There's an extra scene talking about a team up movie. What the hell? And then they go back and they watch it again. So that's kind of where I think a lot of the box office is going to come from, is from general audiences, especially general audiences who don't know you stick around it for the end credits of a Marvel movie. I think that's going to be a big thing for people in this one. So Justin, you have the next two picks. What is your last pick of round 3?
I hate that I'm put in this corner because I'm going to be like the live animated CGI guy at this point. But I'm trying to be strategic here because even though I hate the words that are about to come out of my mouth, I'm going to have to go with How to Train Your Dragon because this one, I know, I hate it, but I think it will do well, even though, look at The Lion King. It's going to be a shot for shot. It's just going to look uglier. It's not going to have the fun factor, but that did over $1 billion. And here's what's going to be different about this one is that it's going to have that attraction that adults might want to go see. It has that serious tone. It has the cute dragon. It has different elements that's not animated to attract people to go see this movie. And this will encourage, and I've said this numerous times before, we don't get any family movies that have the serious tone, the cutesiness. We don't have that family movie. This is going to be that. So this is going to be this of 2025. If you take out Paddington, that's really going to attract a vast audience. So I think this is set well to do. And I think it's going to do probably about, I go 750 on it. 750 million. I think it'll safely do, no problem.
See, I think it'll have a good opening weekend. I don't know what kind of legs it'll have, especially if it has that shot-for-shot remake vibe to it, and people don't bring their kids back to it. Because I don't want to say I wanted this movie in my class, but like it's a movie that I do feel like is a pretty safe bet. I don't know that 750 is the right number, especially because I think it's a June release, and I don't want to get too deep into the political weeds, but there is controversy surrounding the young girl that they cast to play Astrid, who is biracial, and there's a lot of people out there who are throwing fits that there's a biracial person playing a Viking teenager. And while I think it's a stupid argument to make about not going to see a movie, I think there could be a little bit of that, which like we're seeing a little bit of that with Captain America, but it's also more of like the Marvels, the problem that people had with the Marvels, where there just was too much backlash from a loud minority of people. And so I think that could affect the movie, but I don't think it's a bad pick, because obviously the main goal is
merchandising.
So here's kind of what I would say to that is you can go on social media, you can complain about casting, you can do all that shit, and I don't really care, because at the end of the day, you complain online, your ass is still seeing the movie. So it doesn't really matter about your opinion online, because at some point you're going to see that movie. There is nobody that I've had a movie conversation with that says, I'm not seeing that movie because that person should have been white, not black, or that person should have been so-and-so. They're going to see it. Nobody cares.
No one in the general audience is thinking that. Yeah.
So,
but there is that loud
controversy. I agree. But when you have controversy, that means you have the box office dollars, because for every negative thing you say online, you just bought an extra ticket for the next person to see what you're talking about. So that's where I think this is really going to be there. And again, just like Jurassic World, people want to see the designs of the dragons. Kids want to have that imagination, that cool factor. And I think that's where this is going to have an edge internationally, is that you're going to have that live action, non-animated dragons. The last time we saw that was memorable was Dragonheart, in my opinion. So this is going to give almost a fresh look to the youth and adults to see what they do with this. If they go too cutesy with it, then I think they're going to have some word of mouth failure on it. But I think if they balance it right, they will get a good audience reaction. So it all depends on that. But I think anything that lines up on social media is actually helping a movie. And honestly, if you want to be that asshole to really critique a casting choice just because of gender, race, or religion, or religious beings, whatever it may be, then you know what? That doesn't affect your ass is still going to watch it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. They've revealed some of the dragon designs. Like there's that one shot where Toothless is in the arena, where after he is, or not Toothless, Hiccup is in the arena after he is chosen to slay the dragon for the village, and he's going up against I'm trying to find the name of the dragon. The name of the dragon is Hook Fang. It's the one that Jonah Hill's character rides. What kind of dragon is it called? Just because the nerd in me is going to want to know. Snotlout's dragon.
Spectre dragon?
No, it's the red dragon. Ray Fiennes. No, I'm sorry. Hook Fang appears in the Riders of Berk. He plays a major role. Blah blah blah. Can you tell me what kind of dragon he is?
Moonraker?
This is gonna be fun for me to edit. What kind of dragon is Hook Fang in How to Train Your Dragon? Because now I got to know. I've already invested this much time. He is a monstrous nightmare dragon. That's a disappointing answer. I felt like it needed to be better than that for all that. All right, Justin, what other live action adaptation are you picking for your first pick in the last round?
Again, I want to state that this isn't quality. This isn't my opinion. This is just, I'm trying to win here. God damn it. Okay, so I'm going to go with Zootopia 2.
Fuck you.
So
that was going to be my next pick. I thought you were going to go with Minecraft.
It was almost, but I think people are going to be more pissed off on Minecraft, so I'm not going with that. Word of mouth will get out in a worse direction. But Zootopia 2, the bourbon's kicking in. Zootopia 2 actually has had a good distance between its predecessor, and I think if they do the story just right and they keep to the tradition, that is an animated movie that excited me originally. It had a great story. It had a great message. And I think if they don't go generic with it, I think, again, word of mouth will help this movie and it will appease vast audiences as a defined family movie. So this one I have high hopes for. And I think if I'm going to go generous based on the previous movie, but I think it'll do a solid 500. I'm going to go generous with it, but I think it will be 500 based on what's to come from it.
I think a big part of its success is going to be how heavily it leans into Judy Hopps being a cop, because I think there is still a little bit of fallout from Zootopia being such a successful film, even though the main protagonist is a cop, even though she goes rogue at the end and she's not a cop when she finds the resolution. I do still think Moana should have won Best Animated Feature, not Zootopia, in that year, but I'm not an Academy winner, or not an Academy voter. I think that was also the same Oscars where Suicide Squad won Best Makeup, and like that was just such a shitty year for the Academy. Maybe we should do an episode on like biggest mistakes the Academy ever made.
I will gladly be with that one.
Yeah, I think our next gap is in April, though, unless we skip some of these movies coming up. All right. Well, God damn it, Justin. You put me in the shittiest spot I could be in.
I've had Disney CGI remakes here. I've been put in the corner. Don't play victim here.
Oh, man. We said we're not doing trades, and there's nothing you can trade me, Alex, that we would be able to do anything with, unless you want to trade editing time.
If I had the free time, I would.
Oh man, I don't want to draft Minecraft. I feel like that's still gonna make a pretty penny. It's gonna be one of those movies that kids are gonna go and see. Like, I didn't think the Mario Brothers movie was gonna make $1 billion.
Nope. And
look at what it did, because it played it so safe, where I think Minecraft might have a similar formula. I'm gonna swerve, because I do not want that. I don't want to have to monitor Minecraft. I'm gonna go with 28 years later.
Ooh, okay.
I think this is gonna have it's an R-rated movie, so it's already an uphill battle for me. But I think there's going to be enough build up, especially when people find out that it's been 20 some years since 28 weeks later, and hopefully they'll do it right, and they'll release the other movies either in theaters, or they will find a way to put them on streaming, or just do physical copies, because you can't even find those on physical copies right now.
Nope.
So I think with it being an R-rated film, but it having the big buildup, I'm going to say it's going to rake in what's my bonus here? I get 100 bonus points if I'm within 50 million. I'm going to say it's going to bring in 350 million.
Okay.
And that would give me That'd give me 50 plus. They'd give me 150 points if I get that right. So, Alex, you get Mr. Irrelevant here.
So I just want you guys to know, through 15 picks, we're saying the box office is going to be 9.15 billion. By the way, it hasn't been that high in 7 years.
Hey, times are shitty. When the Depression was happening, people spent their money on going to see movies because that was the only thing they could afford.
Okay, so I'm looking through our current list of undrafted. We have Mickey 17, which is for Josh's eyes only. I think that's going to maybe make 150. We have Snow White. I don't even want to ballpark that, because if I say it's like 200 and it makes like 1.3 billion, I am going to be pissed.
I don't think Snow White has that kind of legs. No
I
one
agree.
cares that much about Snow White. I think
I agree.
on a good day, this movie, I think Snow White on a good day is going to make 400 million at best.
Minecraft, I think it's going to suffer for like the World of Warcraft, where it's about 6 years too late. I think it'll probably make 3 to 4 and not make its money back. Karate Kid Legends, I just don't know what kind of thirst is out there for that. Ballerina, a John Wick universe movie. The biggest John Wick movie only made 450. I don't see this one cracking 150, 100 the US, maybe 150 worldwide. Okay. Josh, you stole 28 Years Later, which was a good one. Megan 2, I just think that was a meme movie and they're putting it in like summer. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. Freakier Friday. Wake Up.
I mean, like I said, you can go off script too. Like
Yeah,
there's
I know.
the what is it? Not Dead by Daylight. What's that PlayStation game that they're making that's not based on the game? Until Dawn.
Yeah. Yep. I know.
I think that could be a sleeper hit.
Yep. Wake Up Dead Band, a Knives Out mystery. Netflix is going to put that in theaters for like a day, like they do. So I am going off script. This is because you know what? You only live twice. I'm going Tron Ares, 400. Now, no one asked for another Tron movie, but no one asked for the previous Tron movie, Tron Legacy. And that while it wasn't a $1 billion grossing movie, it made decent money. I still play that soundtrack. It's the soundtrack that plays that I play when I'm like writing or being creative. There's certain segments of that movie that I go back to that just really stick with me. It has some of the most beautiful shots, and I mean, it gave us Joseph Kosinski. It gave us Olivia Wilde. Michael Sheen was living it up. I think it could quietly come out and earn some decent money. I don't think it's going to be huge. I don't really think that it's going to be earth shattering, but I mean, Evan Peters is in it. You know, one of the Quicksilvers, Jodie Turner-Smith, Cameron Monaghan, Gillian Anderson's in there. Jeff Bridges is back. If they keep the helmet on Jared
Did
Leto
they get
the entire
Jeff
time.
Bridges?
Yeah, he's back.
Oh wow! I thought he was still battling through his cancer that he couldn't do it.
No, they announced a month or two ago that he had helped wrap some shooting.
Nice.
And we have 9 Inch Nails doing the music. 9 Inch. It could quite. I mean, it's in. They're releasing in October, which can either be a huge hit or it could be a dead month. And I think it's going to fight Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and I think it's going to earn some decent money. So that's my
Five Nights at Freddy's would have been a good one. That's a December release actually, unless they bumped it up.
Oh, it's not October?
No, I'm pretty sure it's the first week of December. Although that's kind of a shitty sandwich to be in the middle of. You've got Wicked, Zootopia, and then you've got Five Nights at Freddy's, and then you've got Avatar like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
But that is counter programming. People love counter programming.
They do. People love a good Thunderball. So, yep, that's my final pick as we wrap this up.
All right. So to go through everyone's teams real quick, we have Alex getting Avatar, Fire and Ash, getting to jump ahead of everyone. He's also got Thunderbolts, Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning, and Tron Ares. I've got the entire month of July. Jurassic World, Superman, Fantastic Four, First Steps, and 28 Years Later. Justin has Wicked for Good, Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon, and Zootopia 2. He's going for the family-friendly market here.
Mm-hmm.
I hate myself.
Well, again, we're trying to win. We're trying to guess the box office. We're not trying to guess quality. Just that's your mantra for the next 365 days. I'm not talking about quality here.
Every time I watch the box office numbers, I swear to God, it's another sip of bourbon.
Justin will be drunk the rest of the year.
We're gonna have 16 films apparently earn 9.6 billion and nothing else.
It's like, whose line is it anyway? The points don't matter.
They don't.
Yep.
This is just a fun exercise, and we'll see who ends up walking away with the most points at the end of this. Because
I will say, if we get close to these numbers, we need to start a consulting firm.
hey man, I've been saying we need to get a website at the very least.
Yep, we do.
All right, Justin, let's get out of here. Let everyone know where they can find you and what shows you are on.
Yeah, you can find me on the Movie Wire anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on the socials at Movie Wire Show. You can also check out the Cult-Worthy Cinema podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony. Again, available on all listening platforms and YouTube right now.
Alex, let everyone know about our Discord.
Please join our Discord. We're a Quantum of Solace in there, and we could use more people to really show us the living daylights. The link is below. It is tsmackpod@gmail.com. Please join us. You can see Matt giving me crap today because I was sad about James Bond being bought by a conglomerate and therefore having its soul ripped out of it. But you know what? Maybe you have that Goldfinger touch and that you can just spark some joy in our lives.
Yeah, James Bond isn't Star Trek, so Matt doesn't care. As Alex said, the link to join our Discord is in the episode description below. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe as well while you're here. Follow us on all the social media platforms: Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Hive Social, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Talking Smack Pod. You can email us your thoughts, questions, reviews, considerations. What would you draft if you did the fantasy draft? You can email us at tsmackpod@gmail.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment below on what your draft would be. Thank you to Leo Allen for our musical themes, Beppo for our original avatars, Retro Ale Studios for our Ricky avatar. Thank you to Joey Fitz for our thumbnail, and most importantly, please like, subscribe, rate, review on your podcatcher of choice. And thank you, Alex, for being here. Justin, thank you for being here. And one last time, everyone, thank you again for listening. Take care.
And remember,
We'll
if you
see
don't
you
agree
next
with
week.
Oh yeah. Remember, if you don't agree with our picks, just live and let die.
We will see you next week when we talk Mickey 17, my most anticipated movie of the year this early in the year. What else do I have to look forward to?
Watch Star Trek.
Who loves T-Smack?
I love T-Smack. Is it true? Mm-hmm. I do. Ooh.
Justin, you're the spy who loved me.